So I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, your son is a national champion. And she is like, oh, that's great, son. Now, it was in Toronto.
What did she say? Yeah.
She's like, oh, that's great. Now come home because dinner's ready.
Oh, I love it. So just sitting here today with, usually I would, and now I can feel so much more comfortable saying it, Master Akmal Farah, with his journey through the first day at Taekwondo, right? Where we are like average, not even thinking about goals, not even setting goals, all the way to not a provincial champion, but going out there representing Canada. Steps from being a national champion. It's really not a big distance from where you were to actually going all the way and finishing. You completed so much of this mountain. So the view from there and the struggle along the way and all the lessons that you've learned that you're going to be sharing with us today. So thank you for coming, and I'm looking forward to doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Finding stillness in motion. Finding stillness in motion. And my last essay was about really I was trying to reflect on the moment, right? And just being present, super, super, super present in every moment. I'm a ways from that, and it's kind of like one of my targets to get better at. Whereas, this essay talks about it's amazing how it talks about knowing, where to focus on, and it actually talks about, it's a poem, if you will, on it talks about the power comes from the waist and this and concentrate. And then one of the lines is find your stillness in motion. And I keep thinking about that, the stillness in motion, stillness in motion. And I'm looking forward to where that will lead me, right? I can't wait till the day that I find complete stillness in motion.
Yeah.
And everything will stop looking like it's moving so fast, and everything will actually start slowing down. And I found out then I come to the realization that actually, while we would look at it, we would look at it as slowing everything down, whereas to the rest of the world, we would be going at this laser speed. But we're not thinking about going faster. We're talking about slowing everything else down. I think that's a great strategy. I never thought of that before.
It's interesting, when we train things over and over again, we are slowing things down.
Yeah.
So, it's like you and I are sparring, but the more we spar, the more we slow each other's movement down, that I could read the little nuances a lot better.
Right.
And that's the same thing when in competition. When we were in competition, it's like, people see from the outside and it's like we're moving so fast, blah, 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 blah. But when you are at a level where you feel, especially if you're having a great day, you can actually see little things. And I think, the movie that kind of describes this best is probably Spider-Man.
Yes.
There's a scene in Spider-Man where, he's just seeing everything moving in slow motion.
Yeah.
And he can decide which way he wants to move.
Yeah.
Making almost slow decisions.
Yeah.
In terms of do I want to go left or do I want to go right? Or, and you can see everything so much clearer.
Yes.
Because you've seen it so many times over and over again.
Yeah.
So I think that's almost the stillness in motion. There was a time when I was competing and it's I could, obviously it's a small arena, but I could see who was cheering for me even.
Yeah? Really?
Even though you're focused on your opponent.
Yeah.
I could hear the voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was a point where I was fighting from somebody from my own club. And when two people from the same club are fighting, everybody else kind of stays silent because you don't want to choose side. We're all brothers and sisters.
Right.
And I heard this one person cheering, and I then, but you know what? It's you've been there so many times.
You're so alert to it.
You're so alert that you could sense more than just the competition.
So it's interesting, now we see all the kind of the benefits that come. Can you imagine life without Taekwondo anymore? Can you?
You know what? It's I feel so one-dimensional, but it's great because I feel I can also offer that same thing to a lot of parents where they feel my son is not disciplined or my child is not as respectful at home or at school.
Right.
And it's well, I'm going to take them out. And then, I say, well, especially this week, I just got an email from a parent saying, my son only listens to you and doesn't listen to anybody else.
Yeah.
So we're going to take him out. So I said, well, why do you want to take him out if he's listening to me?
Wow.
Keep him there and let's strengthen that. And then so that he could start to trickle into other areas of his life.
Right.
If he's, not doing well in school and not doing well at home, but he's doing well in Taekwondo, keep that. Allow that to be kind of like his normal, and then you can start to trickle it. If you take that sense of discipline from one area and now he has it nowhere, like where are you going to start from next time?
Wow.
Yeah. So she actually, and I actually explained that to her, and she said, you know what, I'm going to make more of an effort.
Yes.
Because this pandemic has thrown a lot of people off
100%.
a regular schedule.
100%.
So now they'll try to make a routine for him so that he's coming on the days that I'm there.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I've gone through the same thing even with Majid. You probably remember, like, we weren't like regular. We're coming once a week, twice a week. In the middle of this pandemic, there was nothing else out there to do. When he was doing it online, and then now he's gotten to the point where he's like coming 3 days a week. And now the other things that weren't available are now starting to become available again. And now there's a choice. And, since you put him into some of these other things that he's doing there, his sense of being proactive towards Taekwondo has changed also. So it has this like exponential, like it gains momentum, and it's getting to some like really good places now. And now it's like, yeah, but we have Taekwondo that night. I was like, that's interesting. So when I ask you, you said one-dimensional. I don't think it's one-dimensional at all. If there were a dimension that you want to choose, this is the one dimension that I think everybody should have. And I say that I have a bias towards it, yes. When I'm talking to people about the martial arts journey, I often say to them like this, I go, don't think of it as like any other sport. It just makes you better at all the sports, and not just one sport, life, school, everything. And then it's not just like also when you want to choose the club that you want to go to, all these other clubs, not all, but so many, it's about the sport. It's about go get a trophy. It's about win the competition, spar and be the best fighter. Whereas what I love about our club is that it is so much more than that. And it's not to say that these things are not important, but they're not as important. And this club recognizes that, and you recognize that. So it's interesting that, you started all the way back from the last time we sat down, and I tell you constantly, like we were just talking, like from the last time we talked, all I keep thinking about is you, when you were how old when you were on that lorry?
Maybe 9.
9, okay, so I'm thinking about you as a 9-year-old at night on the back of a truck going up the side of a mountain road from Afghanistan to Pakistan. For some reason, that was a highlight to me. Because I keep thinking like, I wonder what the temperature must have been like. I wonder what it's like to sit on the back of a truck at night, going from one place to the other, and it's a one-way ticket, right? And what did the night air feel like and smell like? What were the sights and the sounds along the road? And as I was asking you about that, you weren't thinking about looking backwards. You were looking forward, constantly looking forward. And from our last discussion, what I kept wondering was, is it oblivion? Were you oblivious to it? Or did you have a predisposition to just, focusing on the future? What would you say?
I think I trusted my parents' instinct to
Okay.
be, they led the way, and it was, it wasn't like they discussed it with us.
Yeah.
That to be like, what, kids, we're gonna pack up and go.
Yeah.
And it was just like, we're leaving, and this is what we're gonna do, and you're all coming. So okay, great, let's go.
So even something like that, I hear the word again, trusting something, or trusting someone, or trusting a feeling, right? Your sense of trust is so developed at that point in time. It's a small little thing, but don't you think that's a huge thing today? Like when you're, we'll talk about it, I guess, in some detail, like when you're in a specific fight for a specific, outcome, that ability to trust oneself. You had it ever since that moment. I see it. I don't know if you see it the way I see it, but I see it. And then there is, fast forward to that bully discussion that, we kind of got a little heated on. I wouldn't say we got heated on, but I was like, no way, I didn't handle it like this, and I regret that I didn't. And you're like, no. But I think about that, and even again, there had to be a lot of trust in like an outcome, because when we're in that moment, the emotion just takes over. There's a lot of fear, and then it's like knee-jerk reactions. Not a lot of intelligence to it. Forget about walking a higher road, you know. So again, trust comes up again there in yourself now, because your parents are not there, your brothers are not there, and you got a lot of brothers, and they're big guys. I know them. We train together, and they're not there to give you your strength. So where do you get that? Where do you get that trust from? Where do you get that confidence from? Do you remember? Like where?
I think, you know what, the fact that maybe I was the youngest of my siblings, I think they maybe my brothers kind of led the way.
Right.
You know, like if my parents dictated like we're gonna go this way,
Yeah.
you know, obviously my eldest brother, then my second oldest brother, and my other brothers kind of like led the way, and I was at the end. So I was like, okay, well everybody's going that way, you know, you follow the family, and I did, and I never really questioned them.
You have the good fortune, I think, also of having some great positive, loving influences around you. And it shows, right? Like even till today when I watch you and your family members, how you guys come together, how you support one another, that's amazing that you do that. Now we see that from the outside. We don't see like, hey, you might have a difference, you might have a disagreement. You can even have an argument or a fight. But in spite of all that, the family, how it comes together, and how each one of you treat each other's kids like they're your own too, like, you know, and you allow for that. It's a very, very healthy environment. Anyone who comes to the club knows the name Farah, sees the different Farahs that are there, and they're also consistent in terms of like the way that they push each other forward, and that there's a lot of trust in one another. So I think that's another huge, you know, leverage that if you see, you're able to look at. But you know, coming back to you, right? Here you are now, you've landed, you've gone through these things, and you meet now the world, and I'd love to kind of like take a closer look at that today. And I love that you're wearing, you know, even that hoodie today, that the world of martial arts and Taekwondo kind of like, you know, manifests or comes forward to you. It's something that you said your brother was already doing, and you saw him. Was this from back home, right?
Yes, so my brother was involved in a little bit of, I think, boxing back home.
Okay.
And then when we went to Pakistan, Adib was involved in martial arts heavily.
Yeah.
They were training outdoors, and it was like on concrete. And, you know, as we were mentioning earlier, like really they had, you know, their uniform had changed colors, their belt were worn out, and they were like drenched in sweat.
Something about that.
Yeah, and they were very strong, and you know, they were training against each other. No equipment, no protective equipment. It was just like very, very real. Like, and for me, I wanted to join in that. You know, that intensity, that energy that they had.
Right.
I love that. But obviously, my parents, they knew that we weren't going to be there for a long time, and so they said, you know what? No, just wait till we go to Canada. And when we landed to Canada, I was excited. I was like, okay, here's my opportunity. I'm ready to go. Like, where are we going, guys? But then obviously, you know, coming from a place like Afghanistan where you're like middle, upper class, you know, income, you come to Canada and you're basically starting from the ground, from the bottom. And so we couldn't afford it. And then, but I always wanted to do it. So that interest was always there, you know, watching Bruce Lee movies and, you know, kind of acting it out at home. Maybe my parents really, they saw that, specifically my eldest brother. And he was starting to, you know, make good money at that time, a little bit. And then one of his friends was doing Taekwondo.
Okay.
And then he said, I know you want to do Taekwondo. I go to this club, and it's okay, but if you really want to go, this is the place to go. And this was 44 Vaughan Road on St. Clair in Toronto.
Yeah.
And he was, you know,
how old were you this time?
I was 16.
Okay, so that's not early to be introduced to Taekwondo.
No, it was actually pretty late.
Yeah.
It was pretty late. And but the good thing is that this place was an incredible environment where it harnessed like a lot of, you know, people's energy, whatever it was, you know, to make them into this amazing athletes. There was a lot of national champions. There was a lot of Olympic champions. The coach himself was a 2-time Olympic team coach. And so, you know, as soon as they see somebody has that knack for the desire for competition, they'd be like, okay, let's go.
This is the second time I'm hearing about St. Clair today.
Yes.
Yeah. This is amazing. Something about St. Clair.
Something about St. Clair. Yeah. That actually there was a Muay Thai club across from us.
Okay.
Yeah. That he was very good as well. So
you know, it could be that Zoran went to the same club because he talks about Muay Thai.
Yeah.
And he talks about St. Clair.
St.
We're going to come back to that later.
Yeah, it was Bathurst and St. Clair, that area. But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was very close to us, so we knew them.
Okay.
But when I
You
started,
went to Taekwondo.
yeah, I went to Taekwondo, and I remember I was just sitting in the office.
Remember your first day?
My first day.
You remember?
I remember just sitting there in the office, and he said, people are usually chained by different things, like mentally, and the coach said chained. Yeah,
Okay.
like you're held down by different things in your life.
Okay.
And he said, basically, what I do is I cut those chains to let you fly.
Huh.
And I'm just sitting there as a young boy, imagining this bird that's chained down, and it's like, you know what? Yeah, he really does lift you up. He really, he really does encourage you. He really does create an environment where you figure out your strengths, and then you go on your own, basically. And that's what Taekwondo is. It's an independent. It's an individual sport.
Right.
And so when you're in the ring, even though you have all this training and stuff like that, at the end of the day, you're alone, and you do what you can to overcome the obstacles in front of you.
So when you start there on your first day, I remember my first day too. I don't know if everyone remembers it or not, but definitely that first day, you're listening, you're full of anticipation, right? There's this eagerness. Do you remember your second day, like when you first started getting to the actual training of it? How was it at the beginning?
I remember just focusing on the fold. I remember somebody putting like a stick like between in front of my leg to be like, if you just kick straight, you're gonna hit the stick. So make sure you fold above the stick and then extend the leg out. So just learning front snap kick.
Yeah.
That was my first class.
Why don't we do that?
Yeah, so
It's a great idea.
all the little things to kind of help you develop like the perfect kick that you want.
Right.
But then the rest of the days I don't really remember because it moves very fast, and they move into sparring really fast. And I remember
back then.
sparring against like some of these national champions as a yellow belt. And it's like
You're a yellow belt.
You're a yellow belt
Sparring
against national champions, and these guys are like, they don't waste time. It's like either I get my practice done,
right,
or move out of the way so I can get to the next person that's gonna help me. So they were going pretty hard, and you basically
were
learning
they the same
to
age
observe.
as you?
They're older.
Okay.
So I'm still 16. And they're probably in their early 20s.
So there's a weight difference, there's a size difference, there's a talent difference.
Experience difference, everything. Yeah. But you know what? When you spar against people who are way better than you, if you're gonna catch something that you're gonna take. And I have this idea that when you're sparring with people, you get a little bit of them in you.
100%.
So because if they're hitting you, they're teaching you something about your weakness.
Sure.
And so obviously, these guys are so good that they're kicking all over the place. But if I can catch one of those kicks,
right,
I'm doing pretty good to be able to I block that one.
Yeah.
And so obviously at first you kind of just moving and you don't know what's going on. But eventually you learn to, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up to protect yourself. And then you learn to move so that, maybe the best choice is not getting hit at all.
Did you get it the first time? Were there struggles along the way? Like, I'm not getting this. This guy keeps hitting me. Did you ever feel that before?
Oh, for sure. You know what? I just, you feel completely lost. Like you're thrown in the deep end.
And there's you're not feeling even the progress.
Yeah, not at all.
Okay.
But then as soon as you fight against somebody, you spar against somebody your own age and your own belt, you're like, wait a minute. Like this is different. Now I can read better. I can see the movements clearer.
So wait, so you didn't start with fighting people your own belt. You went the other way. Or did you start with people who were kind of like your level?
So my memories obviously are of the times where I was kind of challenged heavily.
Okay.
Standing in front of somebody who didn't really challenge me.
Right.
It didn't. I
don't remember it.
Didn't remember it.
Yeah.
Because it didn't really make it a significant impact on me. But obviously, as I grew up and got higher in belts, then I remember against my teammates who were same belt, green belt, blue belt. Then now I remember. I remember we were having intense matches back and forth. And you know what? We're complete adults and we still remember those days.
Yes.
We still in contact. We're like, remember that time where, I did this and, blah, blah, blah. So, you remember those. But the most significant memories at that time is fighting against people that were like, kicking you, and then you're kind of like, you're learning, and you're kind of like, you're running, almost like running away, you're backing up, and they're not stopping, because they're like, either you learn to face your fears and kind of like overcome it, or I'm gonna hit you.
And they're not even necessarily there to teach you either. They're trying to win.
They're there for their own benefit.
Yeah.
So the coach is kind of like the one saying, okay, you go with him, you do this, you do that, maybe go at 60%, or maybe go at 40%, or go at 100%, whatever it is.
Right.
So they're kind of like dictating in advance.
You actually heard them saying it out loud to them? Did you hear that?
Later on, when I got to
well, I noticed what you do. I'm just wondering, did you ever hear the coaches actually saying that?
No.
That guys, don't go so hard on him, or guys, do 40. Or,
no, I didn't.
You never heard it.
You never heard it.
Did you?
No.
Okay.
I didn't hear it, but I remember when it was my turn to be. When I became the champion and I was going against then he would be like, okay, go at 40.
Now you're being told, but the other guy's not hearing it.
The other guy, and you're not hearing it, so you don't know how hard he's going to go.
So even though you were struggling against these guys, they might not have even been going at 100%. And there they are still.
Yeah.
Right? So what I'm wondering about is that as athletes, as people who are developing personally, even professionally, even as athletes, whether it's recreational or not, there are these times where we find like we all look for progress. You hear the word, like the term results oriented, right? We look for that. And sometimes the results don't necessarily come. There's what we call, like, I would say, muted success, right? Like it's muted. It's still not quite recognizable. There's progress happening, but we're not seeing it. You feel that time. And in those moments, like, despair can start kicking in. Did you ever feel these moments of like, I'm not getting it. Something's wrong. Like, you ever feel that? Or were you always like, oh yeah, I just learned something? Come on.
Not at all. To be honest, I just love the environment. Again, coming to Canada and, just being surrounded by other immigrants, there was really nothing to kind of look forward to. Like, yeah, of course you look forward to your report card, your graduation, end of year, going to your new school or something like that.
Right.
But that's pretty much it. So this environment really gave me an idea, like a sense of goals.
Okay.
Goal to get your next belt. Goal to, progress.
Right.
Goal to have like a long-term goal to become like a national champion, which I never ever thought that dream could be possible.
Right.
But, having other kids who are like my age, other teenagers my age, and kind of being like, one day I'm going to be, I want to be a national champion, or your coach being like, you have the potential to be a provincial champion, you should try it. That gives you an idea of like a direction. And so coming from no direction to being in a place where you have direction and it takes time to get there, you're not really looking for quick progresses. Now it's like, okay, let me get to my yellow belt. Let me get to my green belt.
Right.
Let me get to my first provincials. And then,
but that is progress too, right? Like the yellow belt. So you might not see it in the fight every single day as you're sparring, but then you still know you're on your way. You're getting closer to that, from yellow to green, or from green to whatever. You've still felt that, so that was kind of keeping you motivated, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Did you, when you first started, ever say to yourself, yeah, I see myself one day being a national champ? Did you always have that kind of as a goal? Or because you talked about, Adib, they were working out on concrete, they were sweating, that draws you in. You always wanted that. You love the Bruce Lee movie. Did you go straight to like, I want to be a national champ, or what were your thoughts when you first started? What was your goal?
So
get in there.
My goal was to just learn to kick and punch.
Okay.
That was my goal.
That was it.
There
was no national champion. I want to be a national.
No way. I didn't even have any idea of what a national champion was before coming into Taekwondo.
So you didn't even have that as a goal.
Not at all. But then the environment had, that place had a lot of national champions.
I always thought every national champion was like born with this, like, I'm gonna be great, they saw themselves as that from the very beginning, but that's not necessarily the case. You could walk in and you could not even see it as a goal on the first day.
Not at all.
And so at what point in time did you start having that type of a goal? Was it somebody saying it to you first, or was it you thinking it first? Do you remember, like, which order that went in?
I think somebody must have said, you know what, you have the potential. Like, you should try it. You should try it. And it was a very kind competitive club to begin with.
Right.
Sending a lot of athletes to local tournaments. Sending a lot of athletes to provincials.
Okay.
Nationals.
Right. So you'd see this going on around you.
And then, me going to my first tournament.
Okay.
Just as a color belt.
Right. Was going to a tournament part of the experience of being at this
being
club?
at this club, yeah.
Yeah.
It absolutely, like if you didn't want to do it, that was fine too.
Yeah.
But majority of the people there were
competitors.
Recreational, doesn't matter, high level, whatever it was,
Right.
you were a competitor.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And so going to my first tournament, I lost.
Before you get to the tournament, because I'm trying to, as you're talking about it, I'm thinking about it too. Is like even when I first started, you can't help but notice trophies hanging around, right? And you go and one day stand in front of one of these and go, oh, that's what a first place trophy looks like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, these huge trophies.
They were huge, the size of the person themselves.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I wonder, and you see who got it, and then you're observing them, you're sparring them one day, right? Is that how, and then you start thinking, wait, I just sparred this guy. This person who won this is standing right over there. And I know, and then you start building up this idea. I feel like that's when the ideas form. And that's maybe why they place those trophies there too, right? Hey, maybe you could do this.
And the other cool thing, aside from the trophies, was the pictures of these trips that they had gone to, whether it was like Barcelona 92 Olympics or Seoul Olympics or World Championships, wherever they were, there was these pictures. And you're walking by the hallway and you're looking at all these pictures, and maybe you're envisioning yourself being on those trips.
So that happens before.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
You see them on the podium, putting their hands up, and you're like, that looks cool.
That feels like.
I wonder what it feels like to stand on the podium and have your hands up like that.
Yeah.
And it is an incredible feeling. You're almost like you're visualizing yourself before you're even there.
Nobody has told you yet that you can do this.
You can do it, but
you're looking at it.
You're looking at it and you're picturing yourself being there. And then you start to have dreams of becoming a champion and representing your country at a high level. Like, what an honor that would be.
Right.
And really, it was just a dream.
Yeah.
Like, there was no sense of reality to it at all.
Right.
But you start to think that you can.
Right.
And so you're
that
you're
motivates
kicking,
you a
punching.
little
That
bit.
motivates you.
Yeah.
And you're kicking and you're punching. And then you go to your first.
So you go to your first tournament. And before you go to this first tournament, just kind of leading up to it, knowing that it's coming, are these there's butterflies, excitement the night before, there's a tournament coming up the next day. You have these same feelings, or was it just kind of like, yeah, I'm going to a tournament tomorrow?
Oh, for sure. you have no idea what to expect. You have never been to a tournament before. And actually the first tournament was actually pretty nerve-wracking because my brothers for the first time came to watch me.
Oh man,
so,
on top of that.
One brother has my bag of equipment, and then my other brother has the camcorder.
Yeah.
And I'm there and I'm competing.
You remember your first fight?
Yeah.
The moment before your first fight?
I don't remember my moment the first fight because I had watched that fight so many times.
Okay.
And I lost.
No.
Yeah. So that was the only time.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
You think?
You know what? I don't think it the thing was for some reason it didn't discourage me from continuing.
But before your fight, when you were preparing for that first fight, I really want to know this because it means so much to me to understand this. You obviously don't go into any fight expecting to lose. Was there in your mind a plan if you lost? Or did you ever think, okay, what am I going to think if I lose? Did you think that before you started fighting? Do you remember having this thought? Or was it kind of like, I'm going in there to win, and that's the only option?
That's it.
Okay.
There's no other option,
right?
Yeah.
So same here, like you go in and you're thinking, I'm doing this obviously because I want to win. There was no plan for not winning.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you don't win.
Yeah.
Now what?
You're broken.
You're broken.
Yeah.
Right? Because there was no plan of what to react like if there's no loss.
Yeah.
So now you're like, all your training,
everything is like, and then obviously you have to face your brothers who have been there exciting.
And it's been recorded.
Yeah. And it's really, local tournaments are like 1 round, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And they've been there for like 3, 4, 5 hours waiting for that 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's done. And it's like, you're going home. Oh. And so how do you, how do you face yourself?
So what,
how do you face them? It was just a very quiet ride home. and that's it. And you go back on Monday, and you start training again, and you realize that you didn't win, but you could potentially do better next time. And then, but the good thing was, like, I guess in the club, you think people care, and that's a general philosophy that I learned as I went on. It's like, whenever I won, I felt really good, obviously, but when I lost, I was really hard on myself. And even
from the first one.
From the first one and all the ones afterwards, regardless of whether it was provincials or nationals or world championships.
What do you mean you were hard on yourself?
I was very, very hard on myself. Like, why did I lose? Like, how could I have lost? Like, I shouldn't have lost, and I would, obviously there's, you're crying and it's very hard.
So you actually, you sit there and you get
emotional about it. You're like, how could I lose? Because.
So is that part of the long ride home? Like, that happened from the first day? Or was the first day kind of like, okay, I lost. Yeah, it was my first one.
My first one, yeah. You know what? Like, I didn't really know what the heck was going on.
Okay, right. You kind of you let yourself off the hook a little bit on the first one?
Yeah, I think so. I think the first one was okay. You know what? It was my first time. I just feel like I disappointed my brothers more than anybody else, because they were there watching me. And that was it. And okay, you know what? Thank you guys for your support.
Right.
I'm going to try it again. Okay, let's go see what happens. But the unfortunate part is they never showed up again. My brothers never, no family member ever came to another tournament ever again.
Huh.
And, it lasted for 13 years, my competition. And so, but that was okay. I felt like there was less pressure, for me to perform, because every event you go to, you don't know what the outcome's going to be.
Right.
But having that less pressure of your parents or your brothers and your sisters watching you, you're like, okay, it's okay.
So as you get ready for your second one, you come back, you train, you now know, like, okay, obviously I think sometimes even that first, call it loss, it's more of a learn, right, than a loss, right, you would say. And you come out of that, now you're like, whatever level of training I was doing before, I'm gonna kick it up like X notches, right, this many times harder. So it, in a way, like, fuels you, right, it motivates you, the loss. Right, to learn. And now you're getting ready, you got like a different mentality approaching that next tournament. And you go to the next tournament, you're getting ready for that. Did that change really the way you trained, that loss? Had you won, do you think you'd be a different guy maybe, right, You
know what, it's an interesting question, Mohammed. You're absolutely right. I think, when you win, especially when things come easy at the beginning, I think it makes you feel like, you know what, you don't have to work so hard for it. But when things are, it challenges you and it makes you reflect and it makes you, be a bit tough on yourself. You're like, okay, either I give up or I go harder.
Right.
I invest more.
Right.
So you know what? I think I did that. I think I trained harder with more intensity. Maybe spent more time. Doing more to try and like help myself. And I think even my coach was like, you know what? Just because you're doing what everybody else is doing is not enough. If you want to stand amongst, above the crowd, you have to do more. And so, you know what? Eventually, as time went by, I would show up to training. I would train before everybody else trained. I would train with everybody else, and then I would stick around a bit more and do a little bit more to like sharpen my techniques more.
Right.
And I felt like that was my advantage, is that I would always try to spend more time than anybody else.
Yeah.
And obviously, when the training came, I would be the most intense guy on the training floor than everybody else.
Right.
And those things, I think, helped me develop more as an athlete going forward. Next tournament, I don't really remember any other color belt tournaments because that was such a significant one. And actually, recording these events was hard to come by at that time.
Yeah.
So that was recorded, but then I don't remember anything else. But then when I got to that was I got there as a green belt, and then when I became a red belt, my teacher had felt like I was ready enough to be fighting black belt.
Okay.
So he sent me to my first provincial. He loaned me a black belt.
I was just going to ask you, because you can't go and compete in those without having a black belt.
Yeah, so he said, just put down on the forum, cookie one in progress.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's coming, but you are a black belt.
Okay.
And so obviously provincial, people know, like, okay, people get their black belt. Cookie one comes a bit later,
Right.
So they gave me the black belt. I went and, I had trained and competed locally enough to be successful at my first provincials, and I was like, amazing.
So when you're getting ready for that now, I'm going to ask the same sort of thing. Like you're getting ready, you're coming up to the first provincial. Do you remember at that moment? Did you recall the first fight? You know, and how you had gone in and how you had set up and you had prepared, but not won. Did that reflect back on you when you were there at that first provincial? Are you thinking about that at all?
I wasn't thinking about it, but I looking back now, I realized my communication and my interaction with my coach had improved.
Okay.
And it was very evident in that first provincials because, you know, he would set up a game plan and then I would try to apply it. So, you know.
Was your coach there for your very first tournament?
So my coach was there, but I'm not sure, I can't remember if he actually coached me or if it was one of my teammates who coached me.
Got it.
But obviously, so the first time you're competing, everything is a blur.
Yeah.
You go in and you're fighting and then you leave and it's like, oh, I don't even know what happened.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you can remember 1 or 2 or 3 instances in that match, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
But usually you come out and it's a blur.
Yes.
You don't remember. And then you watch the tape and you're like, oh yeah, that happened, that happened. But when you're in there for that 2 minutes in the color belt matches, you don't remember much at all. Right, but as time goes by, you know, you can kind of like slow the tempo down, and then you can see things and you can remember things a lot more.
So now you're at your provincial.
I'm at my provincial. I'm listening to my coach. I'm following, you know, his game plan, and it's going great.
Okay.
I win my first match and then my second match.
You still at St. Clair still?
Still at St. Clair, yeah, still same place. I think the provincial was being held at Humber College that year.
Okay.
And so I remember my final match
is
vividly.
Is it like a bigger place now you're going? And
yeah, so
right?
the arena's bigger.
That? Yeah.
The arena's bigger.
More people.
More people in the stands rather than on the playing field, because local games is a lot more people on the playing field.
Right.
Provincials is just like usually 2 or 3 rings match.
Right.
Maximum, and most people are on the stands watching.
Right.
So I'm in my final match. I'm fighting against this guy, and first round we go in, and it's kind of like tied, maybe 1-1.
Before we get to the final, I love how you guys get to the final match. So I'm still at the beginning of the day, and you don't even remember these other first initial matches?
I don't remember it.
You would just kind of like just go through it?
Get through it.
Not even reflecting on any previous loss, just go forward.
Go forward. Huh. I get to the finals, and finals is memorable.
Yeah, of course.
Because
you get to
the first finals provincials, yeah.
That's amazing.
And first round, I go in, and obviously you kind of like test. It's 3 rounds.
Okay, 3 rounds.
3 minutes each round.
Okay.
And so at that time it was 3 minutes. Now they've shortened it to 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I go to the first round, and so the first round is usually like test the waters, see how it is without major commitments.
Did you know this opponent? Were you watching this opponent?
No.
You hadn't studied this opponent?
No.
They weren't like, sometimes like there's the rumor mill inside the tournament, and people are talking like, that's the champ.
Yeah.
When the champ walks around, and the champ walks around with like this kind of like aura.
Swagger.
Yeah, like they're known who they are. Like that one went to the nationals, this is provincials,
Yeah.
Was there any of that going on? Did you hear any of that? Or were you oblivious to it or what? Like, this is the finals now.
Yeah, the good thing is that our club was known as to be like the champions.
Okay.
So being like part of Young Choung Taekwondo already gave you a little bit of that swagger.
Yeah. Okay.
But I wasn't really the guy. So I was kind of like the coming up, but I was still Young Choung.
Okay.
But regardless, these guys were, obviously black belts, way more experienced than I was.
Right.
And I'm competing against them as a black belt, but really I'm a red belt.
Right. So that's got to give you a little bit of confidence too, like
for sure.
That can go both ways. It can give you confidence, like I'm here with these guys, or oh my God, I'm out of my league. But now you're at the finals, so you passed all that now.
Every match is kind of like independent. Okay. You're having a good day or you're having a bad day, but then every match could it could turn upside down.
But clearly you're having a good day.
I'm having a good day.
Undefeated.
So far, so good.
Yeah.
I'm having a great day, and my coach is, he's happy, and obviously having a good coach on your back that knows what's going on and kind of like studies it, it helps you a lot more.
Okay.
And so my coach, Tino Dossantos, very well known.
Yeah.
Still competing at that time himself, very sharp, knows the game really well.
Right.
And so he is almost like controlling me, you know, would like put your right leg forward, move this way, do that.
Yeah.
So first round we go in, second round he knows exactly what to do and he's controlling me.
Okay.
Move here, do this, and I can hear him. Okay,
hear him.
move to the left. When he kicks, move to the side, and then you take it. Great.
What? He's saying this, so what? The opponent
like,
doesn't hear this?
He hears it, but you know what? We're like ahead of the game. It doesn't matter. Like, okay, you know, and then eventually he kind of like lets you to your own devices. Like he tells you, and then you, okay, and then
because now you're in a flow.
You're in a flow.
Right.
You're doing good.
Yeah.
So
and your opponent, you didn't know this guy, you didn't care for who he was or whatever.
Maybe my coach, maybe had watched his previous match or something.
Okay,
he had an idea, but I didn't.
So you go in, you're not really you prepared on some level.
Yeah.
But you hadn't really studied it to the nth degree.
No.
You didn't know your opponents.
And I didn't know that you had to do that. I didn't know you had to watch your opponents.
Right.
Yeah.
We
you're
know
kind of like
now.
just going like this, you know?
Yeah.
And so
so round two, you're
round
flowing.
two, I'm flowing, and the score is like I can't remember. I don't know, like 5-1 or something. Now 5-1. I'm up.
What do you mean?
For
you?
Me. Yeah.
You're up.
So first round was maybe 1-1. We devised a plan, implemented. Second round, it's 5-1 or something like that.
Nice.
We come out into the third round. I'm up by 4 or 5 points.
Okay,
things
that's
are
a
going
good
great.
lead.
That's a great lead.
Yeah.
So now I'm starting to feel a bit, you know, overconfident, right? So I'm like, you know what? Why should I listen to you?
Come on, you say that.
I don't say it to him, but that's what I'm
you're
thinking.
thinking
Yeah, I'm
this.
thinking that.
Oh my
so I start
God.
to do my own stuff. Like I could do fancy stuff.
Oh wow.
And so I start to do like these fancy moves and stuff like that. And the guy does this kick. You know, I try to do a flying side kick.
Yeah.
I have him in the corner and I do a few kicks. I do a flying side kick and the guy kicks in the air and kind of like grabs me and I fell on my back. Boom. And I'm winded. And my
you
coach
hadn't done a sidekick all day.
all day, yeah.
But now
flying
you're
side kick.
like,
Now I'm like,
go
I can do this. I'm in the lead. I'm
You're the
so
greatest.
good.
Yeah, now you can do this.
And so my coach, it's on video. My coach is like this, and he just turns away, and he's not even looking at me anymore.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's given up on me.
So you fall down, you're winded.
You're winded.
Where do you look? You look for support.
You look for support.
You
look at
Tino,
my coach, and
he's looking away now.
He's looking away.
Oh
He's
my
like,
God.
you're not following the rules. You're not following the game plan.
Anything.
You're on your own. So I'm like, okay, it's time to like catch my breath again.
Humbled a little
bit. Come back. Go back to the plan.
Okay.
And then finish the match.
Isn't that
and I win.
amazing? It's amazing, right? Like what the lead does to our psychology. We see it in like everything, live basketball games, but there it is in that moment. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to do this. You wonder, is there, because we look back as like, I always say to myself, or even people, I'm sure you say like, look at what got you here. Stick to what got you here. Why do you get away from what got you here?
Yeah.
Why do you think it is that we get away from what got us there? You did it yourself. And you might say, oh, it was arrogance. I don't know if it was arrogance. What do you think? Like, I don't think it's arrogance. You got away from the game plan that got you there. Why?
I think you think that you could do more.
Yes.
You think
is there something wrong with that?
I think, you know, you kind of, you know, if you have enough experience that you could kind of like change the game plan a little bit on your own, it's fine.
Why
but I
not?
wasn't at that level where I could change the game plan because I had no idea what I was doing. I was being dictated on what to do and that was working.
Okay.
So stick to it.
Right.
Like you want to win and that's already, you know, pretty good,
right?
Or you want to win flashy, so everybody's like, "Wow, that was so cool!" Or you can be like, "Hey, that was an awesome fight, great job!" Like sometimes simplicity is the best way.
Sure, simplicity is a great way. We all know this, but at that point in time, you're like, "I could change the game now."
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing. It starts from a good point. I think it's a good thing. I've never been there. Like at that sort of, I have won tournaments, but what you're talking about, I so understand that, and I'm thinking, wait, I've done this too. Where I'm like, yeah, now I'm gonna show like, because now like you're beyond like you're in this other realm, and you're like, I can do anything. I think that's a good feeling to have, and I think it's good to trust. You talk about trusting yourself. You must have had to trust yourself to do a flying kick, right? Flying side kick. It's not easy to execute at the finals, but it kind of be like wow, imagine that highlight, right? Taking it to another level. I think that's good. That's great ambition. It means like you've got self-confidence. You call it overconfidence, but how do you ever know it's overconfidence until you go there, right?
I think that could be applied in so many different ways.
Yeah, you caution people not to do that, but you did, and I think that's a good thing, don't you think?
I would still caution against it, because,
Even though you did it.
Even though I did it, because
oh my God, really?
because you know what
So you caution against the things that you did.
yeah. So you know what you take it's almost like as an investor, you know, you invest and you're getting 8%, 10% return on your gains.
Yeah.
But then maybe it's a little bit of greed. You know what I mean? Like you want more, so you gamble more of it, to try and get more back. And I think a lot of people have, it could be. You can get knocked out, you can have severe injuries and things like that because you're going in uncharted waters now.
Right.
You haven't really been there before, where you're really opening yourself up.
Right.
When you're doing, especially in that time, it's like you're doing spinning kicks and you're doing jumping kicks and you're doing things that's kind of like not within the plan, and you haven't really done that maybe in an event before. So why are you doing it now? So you should really practice that first before you decide to do that at competition.
So you're now on the ground and you look over at Master Dossantos and he's looking the other way. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I've completely disappointed him, because he's an important
right.
part
You don't
of,
have hours to process this.
Yeah.
Like
you gotta get up and you gotta be okay. Like dust it off. Okay, refocus. Go back to plan A. Stay focused. Keep it simple. He kicks, move out of the way, slide and hit.
Right.
If he doesn't kick, put the pressure, and you hit first. And that was it. It was a very simple plan.
Right.
And he always really focused on simplicity. He had an abbreviation for it. KISS.
Yes.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
And he was like, just keep it simple. And then if you could add a little bit more, but don't go crazy. Like just keep it simple, be humble, stay focused, and that's it.
And so naturally, the outcome of round 3 and the...
Yeah, and eventually I won. I came back, I brushed it off, went back to the plan, kept my lead. And
lucky for you, right? Fortunate that wasn't a turning point, because those can be turning points for the other guy.
For sure. They all of a sudden become excited, and now they're kind of like, unloading on you, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Did you feel like a little defensive after that? They're coming at you a little harder now?
Absolutely.
Did you notice that?
Yeah, because you know what? I felt like I really had him kind of like, almost like not believing in himself anymore in the second round.
Yeah.
But when he got that moment and I hit the ground hard, he felt, and again, I have it on tape, and he's like, he's feeling good.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I'm
the
down,
momentum
and he's
just
swung, and now he's feeling like he can get it.
So he's coming after you.
He's coming after me, and now, but then the game plan was so good that, I was able to catch him off again. And then I eventually ended up winning that day.
So just curious, like when Master Dossantos turns away, you mentioned it, you remember the moment. When did he start looking back at you like, okay, I forgive you? Dude, so like, do you remember? Like, or just,
I'm just curious. I have it on tape, so I've watched that moment.
You remember the moment he turned away?
Yeah.
You remember when he turned back?
Eventually when I start to kind of slow the game down.
Round 3.
Middle of round 3.
It's not like there was one more round after this.
No. So kind of like now I'm slowing it down. I'm not doing the fancy things anymore.
Okay.
I've kept it basic.
Right.
Then he's like, okay.
Okay. You're looking over again and you see the love.
The love, and he's like, okay, good job. If I do it, or okay, good job. Or if I'm not doing well, like, okay, move to the side or do whatever, little things like that. He's kind of getting back into it. But at that moment, I saw the disappointment and I was like, okay, I'm never doing that again.
Yeah. So you feel his forgiveness, you feel the love. You're like, you're stabilizing yourself again, and then you go and you close the deal.
Close the deal, and everything is good. Now you're feeling good. You go back to you go back to training on Monday again, and there's discussions about it. Like, hey, that was pretty good. Just remember, stick with the plan. Like, whatever is happening, even when things aren't going well, stick to the plan. And you know what? There are other moments where you do stick to the plan and it doesn't work, and that's okay too. But as long as again, going to the idea of trust, you have to trust your coach.
Right.
You have to trust yourself. You have to trust your coach and you have to trust the plan that you've devised, and you stick to it, regardless of what happens. And, I just, the camaraderie you build in martial arts is really different than anything else. I felt, because you're really putting yourself at risk of injury and
those days especially.
I remember one time I was competing against this guy, and I stuck to the plan, and I got hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
And you know what? My coach came up to me and he said, "You know what? I'm really sorry. Like, it happened." And I said, and I said to him, I said, you know what? If you tell me to put my head in front of somebody's leg, I would do it for you because I take your words.
You tell him this.
I tell him that after the match. After the match.
Okay.
Obviously it was a pretty hard hit. Like I got a jumping back kick to my face.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and
that's like hard.
It's really hard. The hardest kick, and I got a standing 8 count. I got back up. I finished the match.
Yeah.
But I wasn't the same person before.
Did you win the match or lose the match?
I lost the match.
So you lost the match.
I lost the match.
Okay.
I got hit pretty hard.
Sticking to the plan. You lose the match.
Lose the match. And then you know what? At the end, he was really hard on himself too because it was like it was together. We devised a plan together at his lead. This is what you do, and you do it, and you get hit. And you know what? I didn't care because all this time it had been working.
That's the thing.
Yeah, so you can't be like, well, you know what? Like all this time it's been working. That time it didn't work, and like I don't care. I was like, no, I don't care if it worked or if it didn't work. I trust you.
Right.
Let's get back to training and make it better next time.
So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that because it's great to see the first one. There was a plan of sorts, right? Whatever plan it wasn't as maybe developed or sophisticated as the one that when you went to the provincial, but there was a plan. And in that first plan, you often hear this, like the first startup, the first experience, it's like a complete like mishmash, like it's a fall down, the long ride home, all of that stuff, to the provincials. Were there any moments in between where you recall that were highlights to you when you were in your training? This is before you were black belt. Obviously, there's a lot that happens even after you became black belt. But just very quickly, was there anything, or like it was this progression, I guess, that took place, and then finishes with this win at the provincials, which is 4 black belts for a guy who's not even a black belt. Now what happens? So you come back and you're like, okay, I've won the provincials.
Yeah.
Is that it?
So now we aim for nationals.
Oh, okay.
So this is 1995. We're aiming. We've just won the provincials, and then a bunch of other provincials happen, and then we finally meet at the final provincials with all the champions of different provincials.
Was that the same year, or
that was the same year?
Okay.
And then so basically end of 1995, you're getting ready for 1996 national championships, which was held in Quebec.
Okay, and it's an invitation, right? You don't just show up.
Usually you have to be part of the provincial team to compete at the nationals at that time.
Right.
So you couldn't just show up on your own. So I obviously won the first provincials, but then I lost the final provincials. And that was okay because that was my first year of kind of like testing the waters, seeing what I was capable of. But like I said earlier, like every time I lost, it got me motivated to train harder.
Yeah.
And so training for the nationals in Quebec was a really big deal because here I am competing against all the champions from other provinces.
Yeah.
And we're meeting, and so I was really I felt like I was really ready for it. And so as I went to provincials, when I went to nationals, I'm watching the people that are fighting and, watching the national champion, the previous national champion.
So now you know who it is.
Now I know who it is. And like you said, these guys are walking around with a little bit of swagger. And I'm like, wow, that's cool. Like, I want to be just like those guys. And watching them fighting and winning and going to it was really incredible. So when I went to Quebec, I lost my first match. And I was honestly I was almost devastated. Like, I didn't expect such a bad result. Like, you at least go to the maybe quarterfinals, if not semifinals, to win a medal or something like that.
And the provincial just before that, also you didn't win.
I didn't win. I got a bronze medal, but it wasn't. I didn't get the gold.
Not to you.
Not to. So it wasn't like great, but it wasn't like complete disappointment either. Like okay, I fought against other champions.
Success, right.
There was some success, but I didn't get what I wanted.
You'd done better.
That's and that's okay.
Right.
I felt like I got something out of it.
Okay.
I don't need to win to go to nationals, so that's okay. So we go to nationals and I lose my first match, and I'm devastated. So obviously I'm very hard on myself, and now instead of like 2-3 hours a day, I'm training like 4 or 5 hours a day.
Oh, so that was it. You go in there, you lose your first match, you're out.
You go home.
You prepare, you have a game plan, you trusted it, and you're out.
You're out. Yeah. It's another blur because you have no idea what happens. Everything moves so fast. You go all the way to Quebec. You spend your money. You stay at a hotel.
Yeah, you've invested.
Everything you've invested. it's gone. But looking back now, those are experiences.
Of course.
You got something out of it.
What did you get out of it?
You learned that, your training wasn't enough.
Oh.
You learned that, you should study your opponents a little bit more. You learned that you should improve your intensity a little bit more. You learned that your footwork maybe wasn't effective
You think
enough.
you could have been more intense? You could.
You could have, but
Yeah.
at the same time, everything takes time. It's like that first provincials where I went, my ability only allowed me that simple game plan. My ability didn't allow me to do those fancy moves. I hadn't developed that yet.
Right.
So, based on my coach and myself devising a plan, you devise it to the ability that you can,
Right.
rather than the ability that you could. So we stuck to the plan and we did it and we were successful. You go to nationals, that ability wasn't enough anymore, to even win a first match. So I lost.
But you put everything you had out there.
Yeah.
And you're able to reconcile that? Like, I did give it my all.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't enough. And is that the part where you start getting hard on yourself? Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely.
So what do
even
you
though
mean?
you give everything you have,
Right.
you still, it wasn't enough. So
Yeah.
I was very hard on myself. So
But what does that mean, you were hard on yourself? Like,
So, you're like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm not strong enough. I'm not, I can't, you're like, it's like very emotional. You're down on yourself. You're almost like, you're sad for a very long time. I don't want to call it depressed, but you're sad for a very long time. You're not in the mood to hang around with people.
that is depressed, isn't it?
It is.
But call it what it is.
Yeah, so
you're depressed. It's okay.
So you're very sad and
Right.
you're very emotional and everybody wants to kind of go out and celebrate
Yeah.
the event, but you're like, I don't really feel like it. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to go out.
Yeah.
I have nothing to
It's
celebrate.
like really sucks.
It sucks. You kind of like you're isolating yourself from a lot of the experiences that comes with the competition.
You're not saying to yourself, well, I still won the provincials. I still got a bronze at the provincial. You don't say that to
You
yourself.
don't say that.
You just-
That was in the past.
Yeah.
Now you're focusing on
You don't care
this.
like what you got. It's like, I didn't get this. Yeah.
Yeah, you were a champion for
Yeah.
that moment. Now you have another moment. Like this is
Yeah.
you gotta face this.
Yeah.
And
So that happens even to provincial champs, eh?
absolutely.
Okay, all right.
absolutely.
Okay.
But you know what? In Taekwondo, like provincial, it's an
It's
okay.
okay, yeah.
But it's
You
not.
say that, but a lot of people don't even get past provincial, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so you did, and you get to
So
nationals.
you get to
have this
nationals,
feeling?
you lose, and honestly, like
Yeah.
1996, I trained very hard.
Yeah.
And I was, I amped it up even higher, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
I remember, going to training at like 12 o'clock in the afternoon, training until like 2, 3 o'clock, sleeping at the club,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
waking up, with the first children's class around 5 o'clock,
Right.
training with them a little bit. My teacher taught me how to train with little ones where you could move as fast as them but not hit them. So you're developing control and really good movements, because kids, they don't think about technique. They're just
Yeah.
thinking go,
yeah.
and they're excited.
Yeah.
But if you hit them, you can hurt them.
Yeah, sure.
So you don't want to
Right.
hurt them, but you want to be able to move and exchange with them at the same speed,
Right.
developing your own, and then also learning good movements. So then that was so I
96.
trained like 5-6 hours, 4 or 5 days per week,
Wow.
regularly until 1997. Which was the next nationals in July of 1997.
So that's interesting. You trained 5-6 hours a day, 5-6 days a week. You weren't doing that before your first national.
Absolutely not. No, I didn't think it was necessary. The thing is, like,
So didn't your coach tell you this?
my coach was like, always giving like little stories about
Yeah.
what it takes to be a good athlete, what it
Right.
takes to be a good. Like, you have to do more on your own.
Okay.
Like, yes, our training time is from.
He kind of left it up to you,
He left it up to you.
and then that's where you went.
Yeah. And so our training was from 8 to 10 as a team, but what you did before that and after that was up to you. And if you wanted to show up earlier and train in the other classes, that was up to you.
Okay.
No one said don't come, or no one said, you shouldn't, but what you do is up to you. So I was doing all that stuff, and my teacher was encouraging me. And so in 1997 was a really defining moment, because here I am in 1996 losing my first match. In 1997, the night before my nationals, I was praying. I was like, God, let me win my first match, please, so that I can say I went to nationals and I at least won my first match.
Right.
So I wake up. My first match is against Quebec. The draws are out, and we're fighting. It's a close match. and I win my first match.
Wow.
And I'm like ecstatic. I'm
Was
like,
it
holy
easy?
cow. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It was a close match. I think the final score was maybe like 3-2 or something
So
like
you
that.
could have lost.
I could have lost for sure. And I don't know, I don't know how I would have taken that if I had lost like back to back.
Right.
Maybe like a
Right.
few losses after another.
But you got through.
I got through, and my next match is against Saskatchewan, and I'm like, imagine, I've come to nationals, I've won my first, and now I can say I won 2 matches.
Right.
Like, it would be incredible.
Right.
So I'm fighting against Saskatchewan, another very close match, and I win, and I'm now in the quarterfinals,
Okay.
competing for a bronze medal in the and now I'm in the semifinals.
So it's like within reach now.
Within
Like,
reach,
it's
yeah.
like-
And that means that now I could potentially be the 3rd best in all of Canada.
wow.
So I'm excited.
Wow.
I'm like, yeah, I'm
That's
like,
great.
nothing the year before, and now I could be
From nothing. Oh.
to 3rd.
Yeah.
It's a very exciting day, and the cool thing is I had fought this guy before, and it's from Ontario.
Oh. Okay.
And I think I had beaten him before, so I think I can beat him again.
Right.
So here I am in the match, but very cautious, staying focused, staying to the plan. And I remember him, like he was very fast at spinning, and I just caught him in one of the spins, and that was kind of like the deciding moment.
Right.
And I win, and I'm now I'm a bronze medalist,
Right.
fighting for a silver medal.
Okay. So you're not looking at it like, okay, I'm 3rd best now.
I'm 3rd best now.
Yeah,
I could give up.
Yeah.
Now I'm like,
Now you could be 2nd.
Now I could be 2nd. And the
Okay.
cool thing is, that year they said, you can silver medalist. If you win, you can go to Germany for the World Cup, and then gold medalists go to Hong Kong for World Championships.
Okay.
So I'm thinking, wow, if I win the silver medal, I can visit my grandma in Germany.
That's awesome.
I can, like the excitement, and the silver medal match was against the last year's national champion.
Okay.
And I'm so excited. I'm throwing all these different kicks, and I remember I have him. I'm the aggressor. I put him in the corner, and he tries to come out of the corner at the thing, and I just lift my leg and I hit him right in the face.
Oof.
And it's like another like deciding moment for the match.
Yeah.
And here I am. I beat the last year's national champion. I have secured a silver medal, but I'm fighting for the gold.
Now you're in. Okay.
So here I am, waking up in the morning, not knowing, just winning.
It wasn't all in one day.
This is all in one day.
Oh, okay, okay,
So
okay.
I'm
Wow.
like, I want to just win one match.
Yeah.
To being in the finals and fighting against a guy that I had idolized the previous nationals, which was
Right.
like this amazing individual
Right.
who's still around, teaches today, really great guy, and I'm fighting him in the finals. And this is for the World Championships now, to go to Hong Kong. And so now a little bit of a doubt sets in, like, can I do this? Oh my
Wow.
gosh, I'm here.
Just out of nowhere it
Out
comes,
of
eh?
nowhere, yeah.
Oh.
And I'm like,
Don't you love that?
can I do this?
It's like it was waiting there the whole time.
Yeah.
Right?
And so we're walking towards the ring. I remember vividly, we're walking towards the ring with my coach, Tino Dossantos. And he looks at me and he goes, Akmal, you can do this. He's getting old. Like, he's been around for a long time. He's been national champion many, many years, but he's getting old and you can do it. And at that moment, I remember envisioning him walking towards the ring with a cane. And it's like, all of a sudden, it just boosted my ego.
Yeah.
Like, I can do this. I
Yeah.
can take on this guy.
Yeah.
And so that
Just
mindset,
that little.
little bit of a mindset changed helped me to be able to execute my techniques at a more confidently.
Right.
And so, first round was tied. Second round was tied. Third round, you know what? He made a mistake. Like, it was very, very close. He did a kick, and I just, he did a back kick. And somehow I went under his back kick.
Okay.
And hit his chest protector.
Wow.
Boom. And it was like 2-1 or something like that. And I'm the national champion.
Wow.
And honestly, I lose my mind.
Yeah.
I'm like yelling, I'm screaming, I can't believe it. And it's like I'm on the mat, I have my head bowed down, like I'm praying to God, like, thank you so much. Like, I can't believe that I'm a national champion. I'm a champion in Canada. Like, I'm just all these things. Like, I'm just an immigrant.
The lorry.
The lorry truck. The bullying in school, the making fun of, all these things. Like, oh, you know what? You're nothing. And now I am a national champion. And my coach runs and hugs me and is like swinging me around. It's like
Yeah.
I'm on top of the world. It was the most incredible moment. And we run to the Ontario crowd where they're sitting together and everybody's like, they're cheering and everybody's like rubbing my hair and, hugging me and stuff like that. And I'm like, 1997, I'm like, guys, can I borrow somebody's cell phone? Those big ones, right?
Yeah.
And everybody's like, I think it's like $5 a minute or something like that. I was like, no, my battery's dead. So I'm like, I run to the payphone and I'm like, somebody's there talking on the phone, and I was like, "Hey, listen, man, I'll be quick. Can I just use the phone?
Yeah.
I gotta call my mom."
Nice.
And he was like, "Did you win?"
Yeah.
And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "All right, I'll call you back, honey." And he hangs up. So I call my mom.
Only for winners.
Only for winners. Otherwise, I wouldn't. So I call my mom. I'm like, "Mom, your son is a national champion." And she's like, "Oh, that's great, son." Now, it was in Toronto.
What did she say? Yeah.
It was in Toronto, so it was a University of Toronto. She's like, "Oh, that's great. Now come home because dinner's ready."
Oh, I love it. Gotta love the moms.
But it's like, it's like, I was like, "No, Mom, I'm not coming home. I'm gonna go and celebrate with my friends." And she's like, "Okay, that's great. Now here, your brothers want to talk to you."
Okay.
And they understood the importance of this, and they said, "Okay, that's amazing. We're gonna come to your wherever hotel you're staying at."
Yeah.
And then they, obviously came
awesome.
and they hugged me and they gave me a little bit of spending money.
Yeah.
Go out and celebrate, go and enjoy.
Nice.
And so, my parents never really understood what I was doing. So all this time I was training like 4 or 5 hours a day. Right. To them, it was almost like a waste of time.
Understand? Really?
Yeah, they're like, "Why are you doing this? Like, you should be more focused on your school and your education and things like that."
Sure, okay.
But they didn't understand how much it was affecting my life in terms of like keeping me out of trouble.
Yeah.
Keeping me focused, 100%. Teaching me goal setting, keeping me healthy. All these, being around people who are like goal oriented. They didn't know that. They didn't really grasp it. They were just like, "Okay, you're going there. I don't know what you're doing."
Yeah.
Because my mom had never come to a training session, or my dad.
Sure.
So in November, when we were going to Hong Kong in 1997, when they came to the airport and they saw all the officials, like the team manager and the head of team and the physiotherapist and the doctor and the other team and in their suits, and the people in their tracksuits, like Team Canada tracksuits, like that's when it hit my mom. Like my mom started crying at the airport. Like, oh my gosh, like this is something actually a big deal.
Yeah.
This is not a normal thing.
Yeah.
And then she was like incredibly proud of me for what I had accomplished. But until that moment, she was like, "Okay, when is it done?"
Yeah. Come home to dinner now.
Come home to dinner.
Your food's getting cold.
Yeah. It was like it wasn't important for her. But after that moment, it kind of dawned on her like this is something important for my son and for his development. And same thing, like my brothers always knew what I was doing was important. But
was that your mom at the wedding when you had brought her? Well, that was your mom, right?
Yes.
At the event that we had, we were all there together, and then you and Megan came in, and then you brought this lady. That's your mom.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was like connecting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So my mom obviously comes to a few more events than before, and I try to spend a lot more time with her.
Of course. I'm just trying to put a face to a person. But so that, and then you're off to Hong Kong.
I'm off to Hong Kong, and my first match is. It was the most beautiful trip. I was honestly on cloud 9 because, again, no expectations, right? You just expect a little, but you get so much more.
Right.
And so I'm going to World Championships now. I'm fighting against other national champions from around the world.
Yeah.
There's at least like 200 countries there. And so we go there, and I'm feeling so good. I feel amazing.
Wow, you got a suit, man.
Yeah, I got a suit. I got a tracksuit. I'm teammates.
You're a champ.
I'm teammates against other I'm teammates with other Canadians who are like past champions who I idolize, and we're teammates now. We're looking eye to eye.
Yeah.
And some of them are like kind of like taking me under their wings and giving me feedback, like, "Hey, watch that guy over there. He's really good.
Yeah.
Hey, you
They're
should
on your
do this."
side now.
They're on my side. They're trying to help me and like being like a big brother.
Yeah.
And I felt so loved and so so cared for, and it was a really incredible atmosphere to be a part of.
Yeah.
And so, during training sessions, again, we're not training with just regular people, other national champions, and they're going hard at it. And I'm focused too. I'm a national champion, so I gotta own my own. So I'm like, we're working, and it's fantastic. We're all developing. We go to a university in Korea to train for a week before we head to Hong Kong.
Wow, yeah.
And so,
like, what an experience.
What an experience. Here are guys that I had watched on TV. Like, we watched tapes of World Championships, and they're training at this university, and I'm sparring, and I'm like, I had seen you on TV, and now we're facing.
I love it.
It's the most incredible feeling.
Oh.
And so I just feel like I'm learning so much. I'm experiencing so much. It's just incredible. And so we finally go to Hong Kong, and my first match is against Kazakhstan.
Okay.
And again, bigger ring, way bigger arena, way bigger crowd.
Yeah. The aura,
the atmosphere, the chants, the team chants, incredible.
Yeah, it's another level.
It's another level. It's not just like ONTARA.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like Chinese Taipei. It's like just more intense. The Mexican team, everybody, incredible atmosphere. And so I'm fighting against Kazakhstan, close match, and I win.
Okay.
Again, no expectations. My second match is against Peru. I feel good because I won my first match, and I kind of go a bit harder. I beat Peru 4-0.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
Like you've trained now. Like you are like a machine.
I'm a
right?
machine.
Like,
I'm ready for this. Like after I won nationals, I had trained even harder because I knew like World Championships was a way bigger animal to deal with, rather than just nationals.
So you weren't going to wait to lose to figure this out now.
No, not at all.
You're just going to go.
I'm going to go all out. And obviously even my coach, because I was part of the national team, had set up other countries. So we had gone to Cuba to train with their national team. So we had prepared a little bit better.
Right.
But an interesting story on another thing is like, when I won nationals, I was still in high school. So I came back to high school, and obviously I told my teachers that I'm now a national champion. So my gym teacher at the time asked me, he's like, so how do you mentally prepare for these things? And I was kind of like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? Mentally what? And he's like, what's your mental strategies going into these things?
You're still how old at this time?
I was like 18.
Oh my gosh, you're still in high school.
I'm still in high school, in OAC, the grade 13 at that time.
Yeah, I remember that, OAC.
And so, and he goes, so do you do like visualization? And I'm like, what's that?
Wow.
And so he's like, come with me. So he, gave me a book, and he's like, read this. And it was called Mental Toughness for Athletes.
Yeah, mental toughness.
And it was the first, like a psychology book that I had read at the time. And then it kind of opened my eyes up to like all these different techniques to prepare yourself for
So now
events.
it's not just physical training.
There's a huge part of it is mental training.
Right.
And so if I remember correctly at that point, the book said like 80% of the game is mental.
Yeah.
And only 20% is physical.
But before that moment,
before it was like 100%.
You're thinking it's 100%.
100% physical.
Yeah.
You got to go.
Wow.
But when I went to World Championships, I learned that everybody's good.
At that level,
At that level, everybody's good. Everybody's fast. Everybody's strong. Everybody's got amazing cardio. But what sets people apart is their mindset.
Yeah.
How you prepare for it. It makes a significant difference. I felt like I was a bit more ready for it.
Yeah.
I had prepared better. I was talking to myself. I was like, I could do this. During moments where I wasn't, where I was challenged, I wasn't easily giving up. Like, getting back up and, talking to myself, knowing, resetting, visualizing, getting it ready, and executing. That's how it was working in the games. And then I beat Peru. I fight Peru. I beat Peru 4-0.
Wow.
I'm fighting Denmark.
That's not a small win. That's
4-0. Yeah, 4-0.
That's rare.
It's rare, but it's also, people are watching the matches. So I'm fighting here, and we're going to fight the winner of this match here. So I fight Kazakhstan, and somebody's watching Peru for me and saying like, hey, watch out for Peru. Like he did pretty good. Yeah. Obviously, he won his match. So I'm kind of like unsure, but then I beat Peru.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty confidently.
Yeah.
And now my next match is against Denmark.
Okay.
And so the Danish guy is pretty good. I think he had won some medals at the European Championships.
Okay.
And so, I'm fighting him.
this going in.
Yeah, I know this going in.
Okay.
Some people had told me, like, hey, watch out. They kind of like give you a heads up before you go in.
Right, you're scouting.
They're scouting. And so, back and forth. I end up beating Denmark. And my next match is against Mexico.
So now you're getting ready for like medals.
Now it's like
quarters.
Now this is quarterfinals.
Okay,
So
okay.
if I win this, if I beat Mexico, I go to the semifinals.
Okay.
And so I'm going against Mexico.
And they have a great fan.
They got a fan base, incredible Taekwondo program, really good, and just really good match, a lot of spirit. And so he came at me pretty hard, and I lost that match. But I learned a lot from it, and it made me realize that, you know what, I'm not just a national champion, but I think I belong at the international arena.
Right.
I think I can do this. So my goal now is no longer just to be, a provincial or national champion. Now it's to be at the level at the World Championships with the top people. And so I came out of that World Championships ranked top 8. And it was a huge confidence boost for me. And then,
top 8 like in the world.
In the world, yeah, at the World Championships. So it was an incredible boost of confidence.
Right.
And obviously Sport Canada recognized that too. We were getting some funding from them, like around before we went to World Championships, around like $900 a month for your expenses as an athlete, and they upped that to like $1,200. So as an 18, 19-year-old getting $1,200, per month was a lot of money. Yeah. And now I'm going to university, and that's paid for because of the carding money.
Wow.
So it was a huge, huge success story. So again, like just looking back at all the, it gives you time to reflect, like where I come from, where I'm going, and where I've been. It's like a huge confidence boost. Like I'm not just a normal, average guy anymore. I feel like I'm above average. That I could.
But that's where you started.
Yeah.
Average.
Even
like less than average, actually. Because you're walking into the immigrant, person coming in here with nothing.
Absolutely. And I think that's the reality of it. The reality of it is that you're less than average. You got to work your way hard. You got to prove yourself. No one is going to hand anything to you. You got to go out there and get it yourself. And I think that's also the beautiful thing about Taekwondo is that no one is going to hand you your gold medal. You got to go out there and fight for it. And I think that's kind of like the lesson that's been present to me my whole entire life.
That's the gold medal.
That's the gold medal. You got to fight for it.
Yeah.
And the other lesson that I learned that was very valuable is like when you fight and you give it all you have and you leave it on the mat, you have no regrets. Like you don't feel as bad about your loss versus like, if I could have done that,
right?
Like my fear held me back, so I didn't try my technique. But if you have a goal and you try it and you execute it and you leave it on the mat, you just feel a sense of relief. Like I left it all there. I went all out. I did everything I could.
Kind of like that flying sidekick.
Yeah.
Even though it didn't turn out, you put out like everything.
Yeah, you did it, but at the same time, it's like you stick to the plan.
Yeah.
That's important too. Stick to the plan because it's important. Don't go too far off the plan that you've devised for yourself. Stick to it. Maybe you can try a little bit.
Have a plan, right? How about that? Right?
Yeah.
Like, so you've seen all of these different elements, like when you went in, how to have a plan, how to have a better plan, how to stick to a plan. Even in spite of getting kicked in the face with a back kick, stick with the plan still. So there are going to be some really painful moments as you stick to your plan, but you still stick to it. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing.
You have to trust yourself, and you have to trust the environment that you have created to help you get to where you want to go. If you obviously trusting yourself is first and foremost, but if you don't trust the environment that's going to help you get there, then you're not going to go in with 100% mindset.
Yeah.
It's like something is off.
Yeah.
Your coach is telling you one thing, but you really want to do something else. Now there's a conflict between you and your coach.
100%.
It's not between you and your opponent anymore.
Yeah.
So you're not 100% focused. So if you feel like you don't trust your environment, then get out. Go somewhere where you feel like you can. But the thing is, like, no man is an island. You can't conquer the world by yourself.
Yeah.
You need a strong team around you. So you have to have a strong team that you trust to take you to places that you want to go.
Yeah, I think that's an really important step is building your team, right? Aware that, if you want to go far, you got to go together with people. You can't go alone. And that's an important conscious decision to go seek like the right kind of people to be around, and then trust them, when the time comes, right? So, wow, that's an amazing journey of the Taekwondo. There's so many of these like moments that you might just talk about when you're giving a speech to the kids or to us when you're training us, but knowing all of the detail behind it just like brings so much perspective to it. So I really, really appreciate it. I wish, and I hope other students in our club get the opportunity to hear the same sort of detail, because what we see you as, right, is this, okay, you're Master Farah, so that's it. So everything he says, it's right, it's perfect. And you do it so well. You never miss a step. But to knowing about the missteps along the way and how many there were, and that you grew from it, and then you continue to grow for it, even like what you were telling me earlier, how you still continue to find another person who's today a senior competitor, but constantly working on like perfecting, whether it's this way or that way, and watching you, as much as you've accomplished, to still continue to work at getting better, and to never stop training like that. You talk about training harder, and then training even harder, and then training even harder, and knowing that there are these other next levels that you can still put yourself to, and that you never settle for like, well, I did my best, so that's it. You looked at it, I did my best, I'm going to do more. I think that's fantastic.
I think I got lucky being in the environment that I was in.
Yeah.
When my brother's friend initially decided to take me to that club, it was an incredible club to be a part of, a great environment. And I think, because I had been held back for so long and being let go to do all these things, I couldn't accept failure. I couldn't accept to be like, I lost and that's it, and now I don't want to do it again. It was like, no, I think I'm better. I think I can do it. Let's try it again. Even though I was hard on myself, I was like, I think I could do more, until I proved to myself that I could do more. But I think, that took, I would say, at least 3 years for me to decide that I could do more, because up until that 1997, I had won, I had lost, I had won, I had lost, I had lost, I had lost, I had won.
Yeah.
But then Nationals 1997 was really a defining moment for me, to be like, I have no idea if I can even win one match, but I'm going to try. And then getting to the finals and being like, having this almost like exploding onto the screen was like, it was a huge moment for me. I remember reading a psychology book that said, whenever you're having a moment of sadness or a moment of depression, it's like you think about your best day in your life.
Yeah.
And honestly, a lot of my time, a lot of the days, that's the moment that I remember, winning 1997 Nationals.
Yeah.
Obviously now, as a family man, there's a lot more
Sure.
joy in life.
Sure.
You think about your children,
Sure.
and the joy that they bring into your life. But pre-family time, a lot of times when things weren't going so well and I was really hard down on myself, I would think of that moment, and it just brings a little smile to your face. Yeah.
Well, and it's great because that's even still in your past. There's still more to you. There's the growth from the person who competes for himself, who wins for himself and who's had to prove it to himself, and how then your goal starts shifting to like, the thought of, running a club, and now thinking of your win as the club's win or other people's wins. And I think there's a great sort of next story to that, and how that leads you to where you are today. So I'd love to be able to take the next opportunity we get to kind of look at how this leads to these other things. But I mean, the highlight I find out of this is that, no matter how well prepared you think you are, sometimes you come to realize later that, oh my gosh, there's this whole other level of preparedness. So there's always still more available. And you talk about emptying yourself and how you find yourself discovering that there's even more after you empty yourself. But you can't get to that until you completely, do everything you got. So
it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.